Eric McNeal. Second, Ralph Silva. Third, Karen Doyle. Fourth, Vincent Williams. Fifth, Michelle Jones. Sixth, Andrew Newton. Seventh, Alice Henry. Eighth, Delvin Williams. Are we ready to begin? Eric McNeal. Why I dislike fancy jelly. Why I dislike fancy jelly. Eric McNeal.
Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, how many of you have ever received a spanking? From your parents, that is. How about a whipping? There is a difference, you know, and I'm well versed at all of them. So let me explain the difference for the uninitiated and the timeout crew. A spanking is like ping pong. But a whipping is tennis. A spanking is like putt-putt, miniature golf. But a whipping, the Masters in Augusta. Now, one of the first whippings that I can clearly recall in my life happened when I was 5 years old. In fact, not only do I still remember it vividly, I can still feel it as well. And there was no Child Protective Services to call back then. You see, my mom had received some decorative jellies as a gift. And when I first laid eyes on that jelly, I knew it had to taste good. I mean, it was all colorful and it was packaged in these little fancy jars. I was fascinated. I kept running to the kitchen to take a peek until I finally got enough courage to pop the big question. Mom, can I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? My mama looked at me and said, well, you don't want no peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Don't sit down. Yes, I do. And I want you to make it with that good jelly. Every time, that ain't for no sandwiches. That's the decoration. Honey, you won't like that. Yes, I will. Now, I'll make you a sandwich with that jelly. You gonna eat the whole thing. You understand me? Yeah, I'm gonna eat it all up. Oh, really? Well, what kind you want? Well, I didn't know whether to choose between the strawberry jalapeno pepper jelly, the ginger mint jelly, or the apricot Swedish jelly. They all look good. So I was like eating, meaning, mine, until I finally chose the ginger mint jelly. Now, I didn't know much about Ginger, except that she was this pretty girl I used to watch on Gilligan's Island. And I liked mint. So, ginger mint jelly it was. And while my mom prepared my sandwich, I went to the back to tell the good news to my brothers. Y'all ain't getting one, but I am. I came back, I saw my sandwich, I sat at the table, my mom sat at the table. I grabbed my sandwich and closed my eyes, and I took a big bite. And before I could swallow the first piece, this strange and awful taste just filled my mouth. And at that moment, I felt like I had just entered the Twilight Zone. And my mom looked at me with this serious face. Now, you asked for that sandwich, and you don't eat it. I stared at her. She stared back at me, and we engaged in this intense face-off like John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. And then over the next 10 minutes, I just stared at this awful sandwich, wondering what have I gotten myself into? Sort of like a bad marriage. And then finally, my mom decided to go to her room. But her last words before leaving, "Don't you move from that table until you finish that sandwich." And as soon as she left, boy, my brothers came scurrying around that corner like a pack of hyenas. And so I knew I had to come up with a plan. Now I figured the garbage can would be the first place she would look. So that was out. Now flushing it down the toilet was a good idea, but the only problem was that our bathroom was too far away from the kitchen, and I knew that my brothers would blow my cover. So again, that was out. So I continued to toss it around in my mind until I finally came up with this ingenious idea. Instead of placing it in the garbage can, I would place it under the garbage can. Right there. So I wrapped the rest of that big old nasty sandwich up in the paper napkin that it sat in, and I strategically placed it underneath the garbage can, so that when my mom yelled from her room, "Hey, you finished eating that peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" I boldly proclaimed, "Yes, ma'am," thinking to myself, I'm so smart. Now at 5 feet 2 inches high, my mom was like a drill sergeant. And when she came in that kitchen to conduct her inspection, I stood at attention. She glanced around that kitchen for a moment and then looked me square in the eyes and asked me again, "Did you finish eating that sandwich?" And at that moment, I felt like I was on Jeopardy. "Yes, ma'am." And as though my mom had magical powers, she walked right over to that garbage can, picked it up, only to uncover a peanut butter and ginger mint patty sandwich. The next words from her mouth would be words that I would continue to hear many more times over the course of my life. "Don't get me a belt." And as I slowly took this trek to the room to go retrieve a belt, another tune popped into my mind. And when I finally made it to the room, my brothers had already had all the belts out. And they were staring at me as though they were thinking, "Dead man walking." So I reluctantly took a belt and made my journey back toward the kitchen. And on my way back, I did what any good Catholic, well, in my case, not so good Catholic kid would do. I prayed, yea, though I walked through the valley of the shadow. But when I got to that kitchen, Judgment Day had arrived. My mama grabbed that belt and she commenced to playing tennis and golf. And there was no ping pong or putt-putt this day. It was all tennis and golf, and I was the ball. And when she finally got tired of scoring, I ran to the back crying, only to discover my brothers festively engaged in lots of joy and laughter at my demise. So I told them at least I didn't have to eat the rest of that old sandwich. Nah. And then my mama called me to the front. And when I got to the front, to my surprise, I saw the rest of that sandwich on the table. And my mom said, "Now, finish eating the rest of your sandwich." Nah. And that, my friends, is why to this day I dislike fancy jelly. Madam Contest Master.
Thank you. If we can have 1 moment of silence, please.
Are you ready for the results? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to give them yet. I want to thank all of you for participating in the silent auction. This was my first experience. It was suggested to me by my Lieutenant Governor Advisor, my Elgate Advisor rather. So I want to thank each of you that have participated. The silent auction bidding did close at 10 o'clock, and we will be outside taking your bids and announcing who the winners are, and then you can pay for them and take your gifts home. So at this time, our third place participant, drum roll please, Delvin Williams. cautious the next time you're asked to be a grammarian. Are you paying attention? Our second place contestant, who has won this evening, drum roll please, McNeal. Please pay him if you ask for his services. And representing District 44 2014 Humorous Speech Contest, a little louder, Michelle. Did you have fun? Did you have fun? Woo! I know I did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And at this time, we will have dancing. Our DJ is there. And also hospitality. They are waiting for you to come up and schmooze and get to know someone and shake someone's hand to your right and to your left. Thank you.